welcome to Cycling Fashion Week, the world's only podcast that looks at cycling style from a purely superficial and aesthetic point of view. Our regular listeners will likely have noticed that this is Warren talking because Alex is off this week. But Tony and I, your regular hosts, are here this week, and we have a special guest host, Skyler Goodsword. She is a friend of the pod, also, I believe, a listener. We ride with Skyler in Toronto. She's a local cyclist, and she is also the current Ontario Crit and Time Trial champion. So I think we mentioned in our episode about the GP that she took third place in the amateur crit the day before the GP. So Skyler can put out some big watts. We wanted to bring her into the Cycling Fashion Week stable. I don't know.
Well, I mean, she can put out some big takes too, right? So that's why that's why we thought, we said, okay, we need a call up for Alex. We need someone to come in from the bullpen. We need a big personality, a lot of fun, someone who's got opinions, right? There's a lot of people out there without a lot to say. And this on this podcast, we need a lot to say.
Before Skyler, I introduce you, I'm showing that the fact I've never hosted before, and Alex is going to be so mad. I forgot to mention Cycling Fashion Week is brought to you by leclub.cc, host to the world's most exciting cycling brands. And leclub.cc is the go-to destination for this season, next season, all the seasons, premium cycling apparel. They've got brands like MAP, Universal Colors, Fingers Crossed. They have some nice over socks if you're in the market since it's cold out. They've got Quack, Sweet Protection helmets, Alba Optics, and as we mention every week, if you use the code FashionWeek15 at leclub.cc, you will get 15% off.
They also have Albion, who in a little while, to tease, 3 or 4 minutes from now, we will be mentioning a giveaway that Albion and Cycling Fashion Week has put together.
Yes, brought to Le Club. As always, we love Le Club. Legitimately, we're customers before they sponsored us. You know the deal. So yeah, welcome, Skyler.
Thank you guys for having me.
Is there anything you want to say that our listeners should know about you?
I don't really know. I'd say maybe no, go ahead, Tony. I'm actually not sure.
She likes a knee warmer. The first time I rode with her, she
true.
was wearing some knee warmers, which I respect, because we all know that I love a knee warmer, and it's a controversial take. I think the knee warmer is great. We had perfect knee warmer weather the other day. I was out, it was great. And the first time I rode with Skyler, she had some knee warmers on, and from there on, I knew we would be cycling friends forever, because it's a small group of us who think the knee warmer is a practical and stylish application.
I think that the knee warmer is the most practical and stylish application. One, you get to show off your white shoes, white socks, and 2, your knees stay warm, which honestly, if my knees are warm, my whole legs are warm. I love knee warmers. I think right now is knee warmer season. You need that little bit of gap, though, between the sock and the knee warmer, and then you just look so good.
I mean, I'm fortunate to have quite long legs, so I always have a pretty solid gap, but I think it looks great. And I think, it's sometimes there's just that little bit where shorts are a bit too much. Because I think we've had a lot of discussion about the leg warmer or tights, socks under, socks over. But the reality is, once you're into leg warmer tight territory, you should be doing overshoes anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But like 12, 13 degrees, we're still way beyond overshoes. But you're a little cool for shorts. So you put that knee warmer, no need for overshoes. You don't have to worry about the sock over or under debate. It still keeps you kind of warm where you need to be. And I think, I've been pushing the knee warmer trend for a long time. Skyler's on it. I didn't even have to push her. She was on it before I met her. So I'm glad that we have another person that's going to join me in this fight.
It's also great if you're doing like a longer ride. You can roll them off and they fit in your jersey pocket way better than a leg warmer. Taking leg warmers off is such a bitch. So
that's a good segue into what we wanted to talk about before we dive into the episode, which is we are doing a giveaway with our friends at Albion. I think we mentioned a number of episodes ago that Tony was in the UK and he got to go to the Albion workshop. So I'll let him kind of lay out the giveaway, what we're giving away, how the contest is going to work. But we're pretty excited to be working with them to give stuff away. We all love Albion kit. So Tony, do you want to?
Yeah, so I'll give it a breakdown. So when I was in the UK in June, I went over to the Albion workshop, or atelier, if they want to sound Parisian. but they're British, so they probably don't. I met the whole team. Well, not the whole team. And we went and we did a little collaboration. They had developed the Micro Musette, which they've just recently released. We did a little special thing with Cycling Fashion Week where we made 4 Micro Musettes with the Cycling Fashion Week logo printed on it. So 3 of those were already claimed, taken up by me, Alex, and Warren. And the 4th one is meant to be a giveaway to our listeners. The Micro Musette, if you haven't come across it yet, it's a new product from them, and it is the ultra light, ultra packable musette bag. Like, you can't sort of understand how tight you can pack this thing. I sort of just leave it in my saddlebag. It takes up almost no room, but once it's being used, it's quite sturdy, and it can take a pretty decent load of what you need to put in there. So it's a really great product, a really nice product. And so I figured for the giveaway, one of the reasons I love this product and I've been using it a lot is that I leave it in the saddlebag, and sometimes on my way home from a ride, I realize I have something I need to pick up. For me personally, it's typically I realize I don't have a bottle of wine for dinner and I don't have a pack of cigarettes. So I'm on my way back from the ride and I go, well, I don't want to go home, stop, change, walk up to the, main street. I'm just going to, pull by the liquor store and the convenience store and grab a pack of cigarettes and a bottle of red wine. And obviously those things can be tough to fit in the jersey. So I pull up my little Micro Musette, fits it supports it really well. I can carry it home on the ride. What we would like here at Cycling Fashion Week is for our listeners to first follow Cycling Fashion Week on Instagram as well as Albion on Instagram, and then message us, send us a DM. You can comment when we post about this. What are some items, or what is an item that you typically need to get on your way home from a ride that you would use the Micro Musette because you realize you've forgotten something, you're on the way back from a ride and you don't want to sort of go out again? What is that item? We haven't defined how we're going to choose, whether it's funny or practical or what kind of interests we have. We feel like it's going to be a bit like that statement on pornography where I can't describe it, but I know it when I see it. So when we see the right message, the right comment, we'll know who the winner is. So follow Albion Cycling and Cycling Fashion Week on Instagram and DM or comment what is an item that a post-ride item that you would use the Micro Musette for.
People can email us at cyclingfashionweek@gmail.com with an entry as well. We'll be accepting entries until the end of October. We're looking forward to hearing your great creative ideas, and the lucky winner is going to get one of these great Micro Musettes. It is really great. And yeah,
we also got to be clear that it's not just a Micro Musette. It's a great product on its own. So, go to the Albion website and order it. I don't know if our good friends of the club will carry it, but hopefully they pick up a few. But also, this is a unique 1 of 4, and really a 1 of 1 because it's the only color in this, that is a Cycling Fashion Week Albion collaboration. So this, beyond the great product you're getting anyways, you're getting something unique and special. Unobtainium, that's elite because it's great for anyone who buys the Micro Musette, but a lot of people have it. This is something that only you will have, and then even in any similarity, only the host of the podcast have. We hope we see a lot of entries. We'll also post pictures of it so you know what the hell we're talking about. Skyler, what would you put in the Micro Musette on your way home from a ride?
I'd probably bring a second croissant. And it'd be nice in the musette because then it wouldn't get all smushed and like sweaty. Yeah, I'd put a second croissant to have like later when you're like halfway through your workday and you're like, God, that croissant this morning was so good, but I barely remember it because it was like 5 hours ago.
So you're saying the post-ride coffee, you're getting your croissant, you're getting your espresso, and then you're saying I'm going to buy a second one, and then it's going to keep it more intact because it's true. You squish that in your jersey, that thing is just crumbled to bits. It's a good one.
Now we're moving on to our next segment, which is the Panache Police. As our listeners know, the Panache Police is a segment where we have the chance to talk about some trends in cycling, things that are happening. It's, less product-based, less news-oriented and that kind of thing. And this week, we are finally going to respond to a podcast episode put out by Bike Radar. Probably a lot of our listeners will know Bike Radar because it's a UK media outlet for cycling. Got a website, news, reviews, all that sort of thing. They also have a podcast. And a couple months ago, they put out an episode that we feel is subtweeting us. So obviously, I know subtweeting is Twitter, whatever, but we basically feel like the episode was a response to Cycling Fashion Week without naming us. The episode title was Screw the Rules, 8 Uncool Cycling Accessories That Deserve a Comeback. And then I'll briefly read part of the description of the episode. The Rules is an off-cited unofficial code of conduct for cyclists that, among other things, dictates which cycling accessories are deemed acceptable. In this episode of the Bike Radar podcast, Jack Luke and Simon von Bromley encourage you to throw off the oppressive shackles of fashion and embrace a cycling life that is more practical and possibly even faster with these 8 criminally uncool cycling accessories. So, I mean, the fact that they're even using the word fashion in that description, I feel like is kind of what tipped us off.
Listen, in one way, this is a total delusion of grandeur on our part to think a much larger media outlet would be listening. And then I think maybe you have to explain quickly what subtweeting is, but after you explain it to me, it makes sense. But also at the same time as it being sort of this delusion of grandeur is 100% accurate that they're following us. We know that we've got the finger on the pulse of the industry. We know they're all listening. We know we're a disruptor. What are some of those other really stupid startup terms?
Innovate.
We're innovating, we're disrupting, we're doing all that kind of stuff. And so they're always doing that because no one was really using the word fashion in context of cycling style until we sort of brought it into parlance. And so they're definitely subtweeting us. It's a little sad. I wish they would just mention us by name. We don't mind the comments or the criticism, but I mean, this gives us an opportunity to kind of come back at them and sort of hit them with the facts.
And yeah, just to clarify, subtweeting is when you on Twitter like tweet about somebody or something, but you don't directly mention them by name or like title or anything like that. So that's why when I listened to this episode, their use of the word fashion repeatedly throughout the episode is really made me feel like this was a direct response to us. And this episode is not going to be subtweeting Bike Radar. Bike Radar is going to be in the title. It's going to be in the description. We're talking about it by name because, we are responding to this because we got a lot of opinions on what they had to say about these accessories.
I went to high school from 2012 to 2016. This is textbook subtweeting. I like to think of myself as like a subtweet queen in my little, high school era. This right here. They didn't name you personally, but you saw that title and you were like, oh, this was me. That's subtweeting. They've done it right, but
why? I mean, I don't want to get into all the Twitter parlance, but why this sort of incognito mode they're using, right? Like, just come at us. Is it that they don't want to give us any publicity? They know that we're coming for the crown of cycling media. None of these podcasts can risk sort of talking about us because they know if they put us out there that more people are going to jump on our train. And so that's what I sort of don't get. They could have said, we're listening to this new podcast, Cycling Fashion Week. They've got these takes that we don't agree with, which I'm sure they do agree with. They're just trying to get listeners. But
I don't know. They sound quite nice on their podcast. Maybe they just didn't want to come off as like Cycling Fashion Week. They're subtweeting you so that they're still nice, like in everyone else's eyes,
I mean, the thing is, we like it. Like come at us, right? Like, we're pretty fervent in our opinions, and usually, I mean, we're always correct in our opinions, but
Yeah.
we usually don't back down. So if you want to come with it, we'll come back, and so for any future cycling media endeavor, if they've listened to us and they think that we're disrupting the cycling world, then they can name us by name.
Yeah, to your point, Skyler, they do sound like perfectly nice folks, chaps, whatever they say over there. And, I think, yeah, lads. You can sort of tell the way you're talking about it is even one of the guys in particular definitely cares about being Aero and that kind of thing. Why don't we dive into the 8 things they talked about and sort of just go through them and give our own takes to respond to what they said. So 8 uncool cycling accessories that they think deserve a comeback. That's Bike Radar. This is from Bike Radar. So the first one is Mudguards, and they said Mudguards are not a crime. They kept saying that about all these things. So and so are not a crime, and I think that's more of a reaction to like it's more a reaction to the Voluminati and all those the quote unquote rules. So they are also responding to that,
not the quote unquote rules, the actual rules.
Exactly, but really they're responding to us.
Yeah.
And anyway, they said Mudguards are great because they're in the UK, so it rains a lot, blah blah blah. But most people don't want them on their bike for quote unquote fashion reasons. And they say, if you don't use Mudguards, you might as well be licking the road.
I think actually for this first one, I'm going to bow out and let you and Skyler debate it because I actually love a Fender or Mudguard on a road bike. I have some, I think they're called SKS race blades. I think they actually look really good and they are kind of practical. Come at me if you will, but I'm stepping away because I actually sort of agree with them on this.
But are you racing your bike?
No,
like if you look at this from any perspective, like even if I'm just going on a hard group ride in the morning, I would never have a Mudguard on my bike. Maybe if it's raining super hard, like one of those ass savers, like the really kind of like flimsy little things, maybe that. But honestly, if I'm going on a hard group ride in the morning, it's an hour and a half, 2 hours, I'm home. If my ass is wet, I get home, I take a shower, that's done. If I was commuting to work, yeah, like I totally get a Mudguard. Like the Bixie bikes have, like the public bikes in Toronto, they have the guards over them. Those are great because I'm commuting. But if I'm riding my bike and I'm in kit, I don't care if I'm covered in mud.
But also, if it's pouring rain, are you going to go on a hard group ride?
No, I'm staying home.
I mean, I guess they're saying that they have no option there because that's 328 days a year that it's pouring rain in the UK. So they would never ride outside. But I mean, I think they're like licking the ground thing was a little annoying. Like it's not, it's not the end of the world to have a little bit of dirt in your face every once in a while. It's not going to sort of kill you. But
I mean, I race cyclocross, so does Skyler. So, that licking the ground is part of that sport anyway. So, I mean, you should enjoy it. But yeah, for me,
maybe we'll post a photo of Skyler from this week of her licking the ground.
It builds character.
I'm with Skyler. I don't really see a need to put them on my like proper road bike. Like I don't race like Skyler actually races. So like, of course you wouldn't need them in a race, but even on a hard group ride, I'm probably not on a hard group ride. And I do ride my cross bike in the snow in the winter sometimes and like go on trails and stuff. I do have clip-on fenders that are similar to Tony's. Yeah, I don't know. Like for commuter, totally. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I think we really have to separate the like commuter rules from the roadie rules, right? And I think that anybody would. Obviously, a commuter bike has to have a completely different sort of properties than a road bike.
That's sort of the issue with this whole podcast episode they did is a lot of things they're talking about. They mention how it's for commuters and we'll go through them and people understand. And it's sort of like they're trying to make arguments for commuter accessories on like proper road bikes when they're kind of two different things entirely. Like for example, the second one is kickstands. Like, yeah, on a commuter bike that maybe would make sense, especially the double ones are really the only ones that look good. Who would ever think to put a kickstand on a road bike? Like that just adds weight.
If you show up to a group ride and you have a kickstand on your bike, I am not following your wheel. I do not trust you.
Who can't lean their bike against the wall when you're stopped?
There's a whole hashtag around bikes against the wall. It would destroy cycling Instagram by having kickstands.
They keep mentioning like if done well, if like designed nicely and properly. And I think part of that is they're saying it could be done, designed so it like fits with the bike. And they do mention it as part of touring bikes as well. So, and we all know Tony stands on bike packing. They're also saying they're practical on touring bikes, which, having bike packed myself, those bikes do get pretty heavy, but it's still fairly easy to lean them against a wall.
I've never felt a loss for a kickstand. I mean, I don't know if it's because most of my riding is done in an urban environment with tons of walls, fences, posts, all sorts of objects to lean against. Mm-hmm. But at no point in my cycling career, commuting or otherwise, have I ever thought, damn, I need this bike to stand up and I can't figure out another way to do it. Or I just lie on the ground. The one thing I'll say, because we'll defend, Alex isn't here and he loves talking about his beautiful young child. And so we'll defend him that he has the double kickstand on his commuter because it does make it quite a lot easier to get his kid in and out of the bike seat for children. So I think we'll give a pass on that. But otherwise, I don't have it on a commuter. I don't have it on a cross bike. I don't have it on a road bike. It looks stupid. it adds weight. And then if it doesn't add weight and you're buying a carbon kickstand, then you got a lot of issues too. If you're saying like, oh, check out this new, like, there's no way Silk is not going to come up with this now. Silk is going to make some like integrated $700 kickstand.
Well, yeah, they have all those, some bikes are starting to have those little like compartment things in the down tube.
Mhm.
Maybe there'll be a kickstand in there that you take. Carrying on again with the things meant for commuter bikes. Number 3 was chain guards. As I was listening to this, I thought, like, is this even an issue for non-commuter bikes? Like, I've never heard anyone complaining about not having a chain guard on their road bike. Like,
If you're getting that much chain grease on you, you probably need to clean your bike some more. Degrease your chain. Get one of those muck off tools, you spin your chain through it. I don't think if you need a chain guard on your road bike, then you're not taking good care of your road bike. Simple as that.
great answer. Let's move on. I do want to move on because the next one does kind of, they start getting ones that relate more to actual road riding, which is number 4 was they are pro putting a mini pump on your frame.
Oh, that is egregious.
It is. Because you have to use one of those like horrible little attachment things that the mini pumps often come with. And, you put it next to your bottle cages. Usually it's on the seat post, or I think I've seen them on down tubes a few times, but yeah, like there's no excuse for doing that.
But I believe they're clear that they're I think a lot of people, I think us included, would defend the top tube pump. Because
we're talking about mini pumps specifically.
Yeah. So I think they were clear about that, right? Because they know the top tube pump's not part of this other thing, but the mini pump, and the mini pump is another one. So I mean, it's definitely, the kickstand's clear, but with Skyler, like, I see a mini pump on someone's bike, I'm not holding their wheel. I don't trust them.
Oh, when I started going with my partner, Nick, right before, I showed up to a group ride with a mini pump on my frame. I'll admit it. My mom bought it for me for Christmas. She was like, this is a great thing. I'm like, this is awesome. And I had it on my bike. And after the group ride, he's like, you need to take that off if you want to come back. And I was like, that feels like a little aggressive. But no, he was right. Honestly, I appreciate that he said that, because I took it off and I came back and I was instantly faster. There is no reason to have a mini pump on your bike frame. Put it in your pocket, carry a CO2 cartridge in your, Velo colors, saddle, pocket rocket. Get that thing off your frame. It looks like shit.
I'd love to know, like, the aerodynamic studies as you go out and you buy a Canyon Air Road or a Tarmac SL7, or I'm trying to list off sort of really high-end aero bikes. Optimize, wind tunnel optimized for the most aero gains, and then you put this like round, non-aerodynamic thing sticking out the side of your, I guess it typically goes on your seat too, but I think it can go kind of anywhere. Like, that's stupid. That's just impractical.
So a big reason for them saying put it on your frame was they were claiming that putting your mini pump in your jersey pocket like took up a lot of space in your pocket. And to that I say is like, how big is your mini pump?
Yeah.
Like, I have a Silka mini pump that's quite thin. I don't notice it's there. It does not stop me from fitting food or anything in my pockets at all. It does not create like a gangly, because they were saying it's uncomfortable. It's blah, blah, blah. I don't notice it's in there. So maybe they just have bad oversized mini pumps or something.
Also, I believe they mentioned like crashing with it, and Warren was on a ride with me earlier this year, and I crashed with one in my back pocket and I was perfectly fine.
And it didn't even fall out of your pocket.
No.
This one makes no sense to me because, yeah, it looks terrible. It reduces the aerodynamic character of your bike. And I don't know, just buy a smaller mini pump, I guess. Or as Skyler said, use CO2 or whatever. Yeah. Like,
CO2 is really your move anyways, right? Like, that's what you should be aiming for.
I've never lost a pump, like had to fall out of a pocket. I actually think those like little attachments for frame pumps on the frame seem like you're very prone to lose your mini pump if you hit like a pothole or something.
They are. And also the bike pump sometimes will like extend. So like in its like full form, like when you would like be pumping up, like it was the most annoying thing ever having it attached to my frame. One, it looked stupid. And two, like just like the function of it was so wrong.
This whole thing with the mini pump seems forced. Like, it seems like they were brainstorming. They needed 8 because it's like a catchy number. I guess they could have done 7. They were brainstorming and they just thought we need one. And someone's like, what are them mini pumps? And they all probably were like, yeah, that looks stupid, but we'll just say it's cool.
They did acknowledge that like frame pumps are more powerful. And yeah, if you've got a steel bike, a frame pump does look good. Okay, so next one. This was kind of general. They didn't get specific. They said frame bags and bar bags, but they were also talking about saddlebags. And they said on bike luggage is not a crime. This isn't even really uncool in the sense that a lot of the big gravel movement that's happening, you'll see people running bar bags, frame bags on 30-kilometer rides. I mean, we wouldn't do that. Absolutely not. But like, there's definitely a segment of cycling that doesn't think this is uncool right now.
I mean, I would argue that I don't want to say the coolest segment of cycling, but definitely the sort of most visually prominent segment of cycling really loves a bar bag. And I mean, a saddlebag is, I think, right now is across the board, right? Like on a non-race ride, if you're not racing, I would say every single person has a saddlebag. Now, part of that's that the design has gotten a lot better. I remember my first Specialized saddlebag that was so sort of saggy and low, and you could probably, I could have fit that bottle of wine and pack of cigarettes right in there. I didn't even need a micro musette. But they've become very sort of sleek and stylish. So the saddlebag's a complete washout. The bar bag's become incredibly popular, and I think is not that practical on a 30K group ride, but you see it a lot. The frame bag I hate if you're not bike packing, and I hate bike packing, but the frame bag I think is always bad.
The bar bag, even on a 30K group ride, now with the seasons changing, it's amazing because you can bring an extra layer for the coffee shop. So you're never cold. I'll give it to that on the 30K ride. The frame bag, I can't imagine a purpose you would need it for unless you were bike packing.
Or like doing like a 400K ride in one day or something. I don't either. And I'll allow the bar bag and like the colder weather. I hear you because you want to be warm at the coffee shop. I think a bar bag in that situation is fine. But they're also talking about saddlebags. And yeah, there's so many good options these days for like nice looking, well-designed ones. There's, Le Club carries a brand called Post that has a pretty small, sleek road one. Tony and I both have some from Or Not, San Francisco brand that are really
Albion makes great ones, although I don't know if they're still in stock. Attacker has the nice ones.
Yep.
I mean, I think that the saddlebag is no longer uncool. I think it's actually it's the same as your water bottle cages. It's right there. Everyone uses it. I mean, there's ugly saddlebags the same way there's ugly water bottle cages, but it's no longer, no one sees someone with a saddlebag and thinks, man, that guy sucks.
The Velo Color one from Toronto, also great.
Yeah, local Toronto brand name Velo Color makes a very handmade in Toronto also. So
yeah,
that is, especially if you're Canadian, you probably care about them more than say if you're the UK. But either way, that is another
I mean, they probably ship worldwide. I think it's called
do.
the Rocket Pocket. It's pretty much everywhere in the Toronto scene, but it is quite a good product.
And then number 6 is a Sweatband. Now, this was a little weird one because I thought when they said it, they're going to be, for indoor training, like, just wear a sweatband. But they also were talking about wearing it outdoors as well. I feel like they're just making that up. I've seen people wearing bandanas and stuff like that.
It just feels like it would be so uncomfy under a helmet. Like, I thought the same thing. I'm like, a sweatband is simply reserved for like a spin class or you're on Zwift on the indoor trader. Under a helmet, like, I can't imagine how weird that would be, and also it wouldn't feel good. And if I saw someone with it, I'd be like, what are you doing? What's that thing? I don't know.
Are they talking like one of those like 90s like basketball terry cloth headbands?
Pretty sure, yes.
Because I mean, that's another problem there would be, I don't think it would fit properly under your helmet, and thus negating the probably practicality of your helmet if it's not sitting properly on your head. Plus, most helmets sort of have like a little bit of sweatband, like in the kind. I find helmets can kind of hold on to. I don't know. The whole thing just, again, it's very stupid. And I mean, yeah, talk about looking bad. Like let's get off. We're not supposed to talk about practicality here, anyways. But man, you would look stupid with a headband.
On practicality, I want to say indoors is sweatbands. Like, as a bald guy who, like, I think head sweats a fair bit, I've tried the headband thing when we're being on the trainer, doing Zwift, trainer road and all that. And I actually found it didn't work great. It just got so sopped up with sweat that it started leaking through the headband that I eventually just threw it off. And I just found it more effective to wipe my face with a towel. They also mentioned having one on your wrist, so like a wristband to do the same thing,
Ooh.
which I also tried. Same thing. That it just gets soaked with sweat, doesn't work.
First off, if you want to mop up the sweater, you got cycling caps. So I mean, you've got a purpose produced product to sort of function as a sweat guard there. And then the wrist stuff, are we like 2004 Nelly? Like, oh my god, like if someone's got a Fila wrist guard on, wrist sweatband on, oh dear lord, I don't know what I would do.
One of the hosts, he admitted while talking about the headband is, I guess he used to do the hill climb championship over there in the UK. Like they have those, I don't know what part of the UK, but it's a pretty big event. I've seen video from it online and GCN, that kind of thing. It's just like climbing to the top. Now the helmets are mandatory, but they used to not make it mandatory. So he said he used to wear a sweatband just to be a contrarian and not wear a cycling cap. Maybe this whole episode is just them being contrarians and saying things they don't believe.
I guess, which is, it's a take. People do that contrarian. Doesn't mean it's good. Just because you do something the opposite of what's supposed to be done doesn't mean it's good. But I mean, I'm glad they went to helmets, because you can still crash on an uphill. And as someone who's had multiple concussions, it doesn't actually take that hard of a fall to give you a concussion. Just letting everyone out there know, if they're sort of riding casually or they think take off their helmet going on an uphill, you don't have to be going 40 to hit your head and get a concussion. You can literally, if you say you broke a spoke or something and you kind of went over the bars going uphill or hit something, it can still give you a concussion.
Okay, so number 7, this is another one which I feel like isn't looked down upon. I feel like they just started listing off things that they like, and it's the string vest base layer. Now I had to kind of Google this because it's actually a bit different than just a mesh base layer. It is actually made of string in a sort of mesh-like construction. It essentially serves the same purpose as a mesh base layer that you're supposed to wear in warmer weather, blah, blah, blah. I've never used one of these. Looking online, it looks fine. It looks like a mesh. It's a base layer.
I also had to Google it because I was like, what the hell is a string vest? But to me, it just looked like a base layer with a little bit more holes. Yeah, and like the brands they listed off are like, some of them are like cycling brands too. So I was like, are you just talking about a mesh base layer? And if they're talking about a mesh base layer, I love base layers pretty much year round, like
Yeah,
all year round. So this one didn't really feel that like controversial or like, oh, you can't wear this. I'm like, everyone is
no.
wearing base layers. Like every cycling brand also makes base layers, and like they make them really cool. Like they're coming out with like funky designs that you can wear under like your kit. Like I don't know if it's
they're not like thought of as uncool. Like base layers are like a pretty normal essential piece of kit that most people use, and you could debate whether or not mesh base layers work in hot weather, blah, 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 but I think it's really personal choice. So I certainly don't think somebody's uncool when they wear one.
No, I mean, I'm not a base layer guy, and it's got to be kind of the right sort of, it's got to be knee warmer temperature for me to do a base layer, just to add that little extra. But it's I would say it's actually very cool. And I would say, considering the prominent nature, a lot of people like to show sort of brand logos. A lot of the companies are making it where like right at kind of below the collarbone, it's got their big logo. So when the jersey's undone, you're sort of advertising there. Like, it's not by no means, I mean, again, I don't know if the string vest thing, the British have some weird ways of talking with their anti-clockwise and stuff like that. By no means is has anyone been critiqued for wearing a mesh base layer. I mean, I would say 95% of people have them on almost all rides.
When I'm at races, like I usually wear a skin suit or like a speed suit, and I find like wearing a base layer for like my warm up and like my pre-ride and everything is really great if you don't want to have your like skin suit fully zipped up like on your arms, like suited up. It's nice to just like ride around a base layer. It soaks up the sweat like they were talking about, and then you take it off, zip yourself up, and you're ready to race. Like,
The only thing I did notice when they're talking about the string vest part is it sounds like it retains sweat more and smells more than a mesh base
sounds
layer.
like it reeks. And I'm like, wash your kit. Like, I don't think I smell.
If your base layer smells that bad and you have to buy special detergent for base layers, which they mentioned, then I don't know. Maybe you have another problem. You should see.
I mean, maybe it's whatever this string vest did it or whatever it is, and they've just got to go get mesh base layer made by basically every single company right now, and get rid of whatever weird random British product from the 1960s they're using, because I have a Universal Colors mesh base layer that is a British product, probably very easy for them to source. They work for Bike Radar. I'm sure they could get a few samples, and I don't wear it 2 rides in a row, but I've never had any issues with smelling, and I use just sort of typical detergent and hand wash, cycle and stuff. So whatever they're choosing seems to be a lot of issue.
So let's go into the final one, which is, as they say, cycling mitts, but gloves. And
I hate
they're
them.
referring to Now they're referring to not just wearing them in the winter, colder weather, which obviously I think most people do generally. They're talking about just wearing them whenever. And one of the 2 hosts even admits he doesn't wear them. Yeah, I think they're talking about just wearing them like on a normal ride. Like, I understand them for racing, especially crit racing or gravel racing, more so crit racing, I feel like.
I think they just look awful. Like, I mean, they had their time. They were very popular in the 90s. They look terrible. Vanderpool doesn't wear them. Although, I don't know, maybe if he had one on, he could have got a better grip on those teenagers. But I don't think Wout wears them. The big stars don't wear them. And again, I was always explained that it was kind of to avoid road rash on your palms. And I just think they look awful. They don't look cool.
As the Ontario crit champion, I still don't wear them.
Boom.
And I know, like I should. I'm sure
No, you
it would be
shouldn't.
great if I crashed, but I hate them. I think they look bad. They smell because you sweat in them, and most people don't wash them after every ride. So like they just have these smelly little mitts on. They're gross. You wipe
That is
your
gross.
sweat on them, your snot on them. Like, I don't know. And I just think they look bad. Like, they look bad in black. They look bad in any other color. They don't match your kit.
No one's ever looked cool in fingerless gloves or cut off
No.
finger gloves. Like, there's no part segment of society. Like Karl Lagerfeld, I'm sorry, I know people loved him as a fashion designer, but he looks stupid in those gloves. You don't look cool in your driving gloves. Like, you just like a glove needs a full finger. Like, obviously, I think we all wear full finger gloves in the fall and winter weather. We're not trying to freeze our hands off, so we're not against like the glove as an entity. Again, there are these things that like I've never had an issue. Like, I've never been riding my bike even, and thought like, I can't really get a good grip on these bars.
Yeah, if you're having trouble like gripping your bars, get different grip tape. That's what I
I
would
was
say.
just thinking that, yeah.
Or bar
There's
tape,
tons
sorry.
tons of bar tapes out there that you can grip onto.
I was even going to say, I was down in the US for a cyclocross race a few weeks ago. And one of the days, the 2 days, it was in Rochester, New York. Just mentioning that because great event. Thank you, Rochester Cyclocross. The second day of racing was in rain in the mud. I didn't even wear gloves on that day because I was like, no, that looks stupid. And, they practically probably would have been a good idea. That's my commitment to no gloves.
The problem too is that glove guy is also like Canadian flag bandana guy. And that's just like a mix that we can't get behind. If you see a guy with gloves, he has a Canadian flag or like a flame bandana or something on. And it's not even ironic. Like, it's just, they think it's good. Kind of goes with, I mean, and they definitely also have a mini pump attached to their seat tube. So there's a lot. I'd like to actually see what we should do. We're not gonna, because we talk about what we should do and we're busy with other stuff. But what we should do is essentially take all this stuff and put it on a bike and on a person and see what, and like take a photo and just see how stupid it really looks. Like, imagine we get a random, road bike. We put some Mudguards, a frame pump or a frame bag, a mini pump. They're there
Chain
with
guard.
a chain guard. They've got their
Kickstands.
sweatbands and cycling gloves, cycling mitts. The vest thing, I don't even know what this is. I mean, I feel like it's actually one of those like Jamaican mesh shirts that you wear, when you go to Jamaica for a week. I don't even know what they're talking about, but like, it would be the most, if you saw someone wearing all this stuff, it would be one of the most awful sights you would see in cycling. But I want to do that. I'm not gonna, but I want to do that.
That's sort of like reinforced my feeling that this whole podcast episode, it's like they had this idea, they got through like 4 that maybe made sense, and then there's a few that they just threw in that fill out the episode for 40 minutes, which, listen, I understand that pain of needing to fill out the podcast episode. I don't really get what they're trying to achieve with this. I don't think their arguments are even very convincing.
They're not convinced themselves. This is all about attacking us. But just to say, we've talked a little bit of shit about Bike Rider, but I listen to them a lot and actually think they do a good podcast. Despite how much, I mean, I skipped the mountain bike ones, but they have some good content, and the lads are an okay listen. So this is a very specific episode we're attacking, but in general, we're not anti-Bike Radar.
Bike Radar is like a good site. It's a good outlet. This episode, they should delete it. Time for our next segment, Into the Canal, which, as Alex always likes to say, it's our signature segment. It is what we're most known for. We get lots of messages about things, if they're canal worthy or if people can wear them, that kind of thing. So it really is our sort of trademark. We should trademark it before Bike Radar steals it. This week, we're going to let Skyler go first because she's a guest host. So we want to give her the honor of saying what she finds good or bad or both in the world of cycling. Skyler, what do you got for us this week?
So I've got a chameleon and a canal. What would you rather start with, the good or the bad?
Yeah, start with the good.
Let's start with the good. Okay, my chameleon is just the sport of cyclocross. This past weekend, I raced my first cyclocross race. To that, I was kind of a stranger to the whole sport and everything that went on in it. And oh my God, it is so much harder than I thought. I raced my road bike all summer. I think of myself as quite strong. On the group ride, I'm racing up RVR. Cyclocross was so hard. It was so technical. But the whole time, the atmosphere was great. Everyone's heckling at me. Everyone's yelling, fucking roadie, you can't ride a cyclocross bike, blah, blah, blah. And they were right. I was on the ground more than 20 times. My whole body's covered in bruises. I felt like I got hit by a train the next day. But I had so much fun. And I wish that this went on for like longer than a month. Like cyclocross here in Ontario really happens for just the month of October. But I wish that it started earlier because it is so much fun.
I obviously agree with that as a cyclocross racer myself. I was at this race as well. I saw Skylar's first foray into it. I do want to note she's still podiumed, but so that is more a testament to her strength in pure like wattage than her technical ability. But I'm curious to hear Tony's take though.
Yeah, no, I don't agree with that. I can't chameleon cyclocross. I mean, there's some fun aspects to riding your bike in dirt and sand, but the like sport of cyclocross and the like positivity and the like come togetherness and the craft beer and all that stuff is like a real antithesis to who I am. Like even the heckling is like good natured heckling. So it's not even like you're actually like it's always like your friend and you're like, that's really funny or whatever. Fucking roadie, ha. Like it's not really like digging in. Like if the heckling was like really digging in, doing a little research about your opponent and maybe, finding out some traumatic past history that you can attack, that would be okay. But it's a lot of fun and positivity. And I feel like it's a lot of Patagonia.
Yeah, I broke out my Blundstones for the cyclocross race.
Oh yeah. It's a lot of Blundstones, and that's really not good. So I mean, I'm not gonna accept your chameleon. Warren can. I know you guys love it. I'm not alongside with you, but it's a little too Squamish BC for me.
I would dispute your positivity a little bit. I do, especially if you're heckling somebody you know really well. Sometimes that gets pretty like psychologically damaging, I think. But I can't argue. There's definitely a lot of craft beer drinking and that kind of thing, which I don't approve of. But yeah, I don't know if I would call it the most positive thing. And Squamish is more of a mountain bike town.
I don't know anything about BC, so I feel like I've said things are very like Colorado or very like Portland, and I was trying to like move away from that a little bit and give like another city. Anyway, so okay, I don't know anything about Squamish, BC. I just know it exists, and I know people probably have a lot of jorts, Blundstones, and craft beer there.
Yeah, maybe Tony, you'll agree with my canal then. My canal of the week with the weather turning, I've seen just a little bit of it, and I hope that I don't see any more. In its long bibs and a short sleeve jersey.
That could be number one in the fashion mistake, and it's unacceptable. It's absolutely unacceptable.
Did you, Skylar? I don't know if you noticed, there was somebody racing this weekend in that. I think leg warmers and a short sleeve jersey. It's just like, why are you racing in that? I think we've even maybe covered this on the podcast before. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I think you guys did, but I still see people doing it. And like, maybe they didn't listen to the first few episodes. Maybe they need a little refresher, but definitely saw it this past weekend. And I was like, that's crazy. Like, it looks like you were in your warm up. You got called to the start. you forgot to take your leg warmers off, oh fuck, and then you had to race. If it's warm enough to not have sleeves on, you do not need anything on your legs at all.
The same guy doing that, he's got he or she have a Canadian flag bandana, a sweatband,
Ankle socks.
ankle
Chain
socks,
guard.
cycling glove, chain guard. Like they all go together. And also I want to say with Skyler and I love for knee warmers,
Hmm.
you still can't do knee warmers in a short sleeve. Like
No.
the knee warmers still have to come on when you're in arm warmers or long sleeve. Like
Mhm.
once you decide to put something on beyond your bib shorts, you must have something up top.
Okay, Tony, what do you have this week?
I'm actually going to do a chameleon as well this week. I feel like I've been doing them a lot lately, which don't get me wrong. There's a lot of stuff I hate in cycling, but I just want to make sure I'm mixing it up. And that is to almost make this the Albion episode without the boys from Albion being on. I noticed recently they released a iron-on repair patch for tears in your kit. They did a little instructional video on their Instagram, and I think it's a great idea. I'm definitely one who likes to sort of push the life of my kid as far as I can get. I know it's always exciting to have fresh and new stuff, but it's also nice to not be wasting things. And sometimes a little tear, the garment's still good, but it might either sort of bother you aesthetically, or maybe it's in the pocket and you're worried about losing something. So they released a little iron-on patch that obviously they want it to be used with their product, but I assume could be used with all sorts of brands. It's probably compatible, super easy to install, and a way to give a little more life to your existing garment that you may have had a little crash or a little tear or something. So I think it's a great idea. I'm sort of surprised that I haven't seen it before. I'm not saying they invented it, but I haven't seen it before. And I think that I hope it sells well. And I hope that even other brands maybe come out with it, because extending the life of your jersey or your bibs is a really good idea.
Yeah.
I agree.
Definitely has me thinking of like iron-on jean patches.
I think it's very similar. Yeah.
Yeah. But I love the idea. I mean, styles from back then are coming back anyway, so
There's right now, I believe, is sort of a black rectangle that says repair on it, and it does look very nice. But obviously, it could be kind of what you're saying, the early aughts, millennial fashions coming back. Like that could be another sort of additional sale item to cycling clothing. Is sort of creating a whole line of them with different sort of prints and styles and logos, and sort of like adding, not just making it purely for repair, but also making it sort of a style thing. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there. And as far as I know, Albion's the first to do it sort of specific to the cycling world. Shout out to them. Don't forget about our giveaway.
And it's less than $10. I know it's just a couple patches, but still.
nothing's worse than losing a $250 jersey.
All right, Warren, what do you got?
This week, I'm going to throw myself into the canal. And the reason I'm doing that is because I now own a carbon bike. We talk a lot on this podcast about our love for like metal bikes, steel, aluminum. My road bike is aluminum. My cross bike was steel, but I have recently got a carbon frame to replace my steel cyclocross frame, which was a Ritchie Swiss Cross. Really liked it, but I've always sort of known the frame was just a bit too big for me. And so I couldn't slam my stem. So that's a problem. So I've gotten a new frame that is carbon, but I just, I have to admit, I like the look of it, but it just doesn't have the same classic aesthetics as a steel frame. I am going to miss having that. I will not miss having to shoulder a 23-pound steel cross bike in a race. I have to do it. I'm diving into the canal head first because I now have a carbon bike, and maybe that means I care about racing now too, which is also another reason to.
I think that's the problem. It's not I can't sort of defend you because it's not the carbon bike. It's that now it sort of feels like you're worried about the weight of it, and you're worried about how it fits properly and stuff like that. And so you're kind of like, are you trying to win an amateur bike race? Is this what you're concerned with now?
The heckling got to him. He had to get a carbon bike.
If that's one of the heckles, you have a steel bike, you guys are soft as butter. Like if that's a heckle, nice steel bike, buddy. You've got. Maybe I should do a master class on heckling. Do you guys? You think the Ontario OCA will pay me to run a cyclocross heckling clinic? Because trust me, I can cut deep. I can cut
They
real
won't
deep.
because the OCA is terrible and horribly run.
Just so all our Ontario listeners know out there, we're starting a counter OCA DAO. We're gonna do a DAO of our own Ontario Cycling Federation to sort of overrun the OCA and their poor management.
The OCA is also in the Canal, but that doesn't mean anything to anyone outside of Ontario. Okay, time for our last segment today, which is We Rate Your Bike for Free. And for any new listeners out there, this is the segment where people send us photos of their bikes and we rate them for free. We rate them based on aesthetics and whether or not the stem is slammed and all that good stuff. And our ratings are final and definitive. This week, we have a submission from a cyclist by the name of Dan, and he has sent what looks to be a specialized Tarmac SL7, and he says, rate your bike for free submission. I'll take some points off right off the jump for it not being slammed. And then he put a sad face emoji. Yes, Dan, that is correct. We will do that, but I'll describe the bike a little bit, and then we'll get to criticizing the lack of slam stem. But yeah, it's pretty sure it's a specialized Tarmac SL7. It has sort of what looks to be almost like a fade color job, where it's like looks almost like a dark navy, and then there's like parts of it that look a bit lighter, or maybe I'm just blind. I'm not sure. He's got some fairly deep zip wheels. Maybe 45-50s.
Oh, they look
Could
like
be
60s
over.
maybe.
You think? Okay.
Yeah.
I was about to say it might be over 50s. And then he's got, unfortunately, he has a SRAM group set, and it's one of the electronic ones. I think the higher end. What's it called, Tony?
I think it's the red. It looks like the red.
I would never buy SRAM, so I don't know. Don't really care. And then he's got, it's got the really aero seat post with some setback. He's got his stem. It's a fully integrated stem bar combo thing that, as we have maligned those quite a bit on this show. And so I don't know if there's a point of ripping on it again. And then he also has, I'm calling this out because I don't like this bar tape. Supic has bar tape, it looks like, because I see the little white stars on it. We will post a photo so you can check it out on our Instagram to see. And then he also has some bottle cages that I don't know that they may be elite. I'm not 100%
They're for
sure.
sure elite. Yeah, they're elite.
I'm just going to quickly give my initial thoughts. I don't mind the paint job. I don't know why there's 3 specialized logos on the bike. Like, you got it on the down tube. Okay, sure. But it's also on the fork and the chainstay for some reason. So I dropped some points for that. Yeah, the stem isn't slammed, so that's immediate minus like 3 points. I like the wheels. They're pretty deep. It does unfortunately have the new Zip logo, which I don't like, but that's not really his fault. I also noticed he's running Schwabe Pro 1 tires, which I had a set of those, and they're the worst fucking tires I've ever used in my life. So I'm not going to knock on points for that. I'm just commenting that I hate those tires. If that is in fact Supicaz bar tape, I really don't like Supicaz bar tape, both practically and aesthetically. So sorry, Dan, losing points for that. So I'm going to give this, it's a SRAM. I actually don't mind the look of that SRAM group set, but you just know that front derailleur doesn't work. I'm going to give this 6.8.
It's hard to defend SRAM because they're funny because they don't make a working front derailleur. But I'm having such issue with the boredom of the style of crank and chain rings that Shimano has been coming out with, and the fact that sort of along their whole group set from Tiagra to Durace, they all look the same, and there's nothing cool about them. So I kind of like want to shout out SRAM for the fact that this crank chain ring actually kind of looks unique and cool and kind of has like a badass look to it. So even though SRAM doesn't work as a product, I think this looks great. This bike, I think, like a few years, the parlance would have been it's a weapon, a fast bike, but then that's completely sort of derided by the high stack on the stem. And I know that these spacers are aero, and you probably still get like quite a bit of gain. But if this stem was slammed, like really slammed, like you see if you look up an SL7 with like a fully slam stand, even with this integrated, like it really looks fast. So I really hope he could get down at least a couple more spacers. I mean, that would be quite a drop too. The zips are deep. I think they're 60s, but maybe kind of looking at it a little bit more, they could be 55s, could be 50s. But I actually do like the new logo, and I like a big logo on it. Like, if you're gonna go for the like expensive, ostentatious aero bike, I want the whole thing to be sort of in your face. And I like that he's gone for, I don't know which ones they are. They may be the 404s. I can't tell. They look like they have the dimples. So I like that. I like that sort of boldness of it. I don't know anything about the Schwalbe tires. Warren says they're not good tires. I actually sort of don't mind, and this is controversial, that there's not tan sidewalls. I actually sort of think they might help on this bike and look a little cleaner because everything is that dark, possible navy, possible even matte black based on the light. But the Super Kaz isn't great. I mean, the Slem Stam, it's like every single person we've got to keep saying the same thing to, and they know it, but they just don't have the confidence to hurt their back. I'm gonna give it a 7.8 because I'm pro the SRAM crank and chainring combo, and I'm very pro the zip wheels.
All right, Skyler.
First
And
look.
Skyler's a racer, so she actually kind of cares or thinks a little bit about like how fast the bike is.
Well, yeah. So first look at it, drivetrain looks really clean. It's shining in this photo. Like I know it's SRAM. I'm a Shimano girl, but the SRAM, it looks clean. Chain looks clean. It's nice and silver. The non-slam stem is atrocious. You really need to slam your stem. Even if he points it out, like he knows it, just do it. Even a couple spacers at a time, like what's holding you back? Handlebars, the hoods. If you're going to be aero, if you're going to spend all this money on an aero bike, tilt them in a little bit. I know that's controversial and maybe you guys don't agree with it,
No, I
but
do
I
too.
love just a little tilt on that hood in. It your wrists feel better, you feel more aero, you feel so fast when you're out on the bike. But yeah, other than that, I love actually the color of the bike. It doesn't look like it's just plain matte black. It looks like it's got some blue in there, some fade. Even C-tube looks like it has like a little bit of a pattern on it, which I really like actually. Elite bottle cages, they're whatever. The zip wheels, they look nice. I like the logo. The one thing I'd say is line the logo of your tire up with the valve of your rim if you really want to look pro. But he does have his crank at 3 p.m. So he's listened to the podcast. He knows how to take a picture of his bike. I don't know. It's a pretty clean looking bike. I really wish that stem was slammed. And I'm also not a huge fan of the Supercaz bar tape. I had it. I got rid of it. So I'd give it a solid 8. Plain and simple, yeah.
Does anybody like the Super Kaz bar? Like, I feel like so everyone's owned it at some point. I haven't, but everyone's owned it at some point, and then everyone always gets rid of it. Is it for like the weird star aesthetic reason? Is it uncomfortable? Like, I feel like I've seen it at some point on every friend's bike and then never seen it again.
I liked it because it had the stars were the same color as the red on my bike. So I was like, oh, it's kind of like matching without like being red bar tape because I think that's just horrendous. But then I realized it actually kind of sucked. So
That more or less describes my experience. Actually, a shop did that to me once years ago without asking. I think I told them to use a different brand, and then they used Supercaz, and I was just like, "What the fuck?"
Oh, is it the
And
orange one when you had the orange bike and it matched with like the orange stars? So everyone's just using it to match stars to the secondary color of the bike.
used to have a black and orange cyclocross bike, and they did black and orange Supercaz tape, and then the tape it didn't feel like I had a good grip on it, and like I don't remember like at all. I replaced that pretty quick, I think. Anyway, Dan, I feel like you got some pretty decent ratings from Tony and Skyler, less so from me.
I mean, there are no mudguards. There's no mini pump on
Chain
it.
guard.
No chain guard. So he's already ahead of everyone at Bike Radar.
Okay, that is all for this episode of Cycling Fashion Week. Thank you to everyone for listening. And thank you to Skyler, our wonderful guest host this week. Pleasure to have you. I'm sure we will have you back on again in the near future. And as always, Cycling Fashion Week is brought to you by leclub.cc, our go-to online retailer for all of the best, most exciting cycling brands. They've got, as we said, they've got MAP, Universal Colors, Fingers Crossed, Albion, Quack, Sweet Protection, Alpha Optics. They got all the good stuff. And if you use the code Fashion Week 15, you can get 15% off on those brands and making your wardrobe better. Thank you, Le Club. Also, if you're in Montreal, grab a coffee there. Great coffee, great atmosphere. And Bike Radar, if you're listening, we should do an episode and talk about this, talk it out. You know what I mean? We will see you in a few weeks for the next episode of Cycling Fashion Week. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Cycling Fashion Week, and you can email us questions, concerns. Don't actually do that. Just email us photos of your bike and we'll rate them at cyclingfashionweek@gmail.com. And that's it. Take care.
Wash your base layers.